from different places, we all have different names. No matter what life brings us, Jesus is the same. We're just your Methodist to the madness. Methodist to the madness. Hi,
I'm Beth.
I'm Tim.
I'm Jessica, and we're just your everyday Methodist
to the madness.
We're on par for the same amount of time, I think, as last week. So we're doing very well.
Last week was longer.
It was? Oh.
I feel like I was
have
more
a timer? Do you have like one of those sand timers that you flip and you're like, we're almost there. We're almost there.
Like sand in the hourglass. So
you know how human beings they have homeostasis. I think our Methodist to the madness is entering a state of homeostasis now.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I think that's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Tim, speaking of, I don't know, your stasis, how are you? How are you doing? How was this past week?
I'm not too bad. Today I had a bit of an off day, and I'm kind of glad that Pastor Jim was talking about prayer, because I'll maybe go in a little more detail on how that might have been helpful for my off day today. But I did want to give an update for the past week. Wanted to mention that that breakthrough, I would say, regarding my understanding stress has been so helpful to me. That is basically believing that stress won't harm me, or interpreting stress positively has just made such a positive difference in my life. It's just been incredible. I can't say that I just mentioned that I had an off day today. I can't say that I don't have off days. So consequently, that's just a technique in which I can feel more comfortable and more able to deal with all the different life obstacles, and also feel a little bit more fulfillment. So it's a big thing. And I now have that in the bag, so to speak. But I still need something that is going to allow me to function optimally in more situations. And so I happen to remember this one friend of mine. Her name was Magdalena, and I was friends with her when I was still an undergraduate in college. And she recommended this book to me called The Education of the Will. And the author is Jules Payot. I'm probably grossly mispronouncing it because it's a French author. But his book describes basically the idea that we can train our will to become more effective. And he details in the very beginning of the book that there's a tendency for people, or it's common for people, to not want to expend a lot of effort in regards to anything. And so he argues that to lead a more fulfilling life, you want to be comfortable and appreciative of spending more effort on things. And then he goes into other territory of describing that it's more valuable to have voluntary attention versus a more scattered attention where you don't have a particular idea in mind. And he mentioned how if you have a really strong idea, one that you continue to ponder on a daily basis or a regular basis, then that can lead to more voluntary attention. So I'm going to continue to read this book, The Education of the Will. For everybody's information, it's in the public domain. If you search the book Education of the Will, you could probably just put PDF, or because I don't know about spelling that author's name, it might be too complicated. So yeah, that's pretty much my major update. Yeah,
I don't know, maybe.
I can spell it, I think, or I might mess it up, and then everybody's going to be like, "Oh, I put the misspelling in there, Tim. Why did you give me a misspelling?"
Google's pretty good at being like, "Did you mean blah blah blah?"
Oh, that's true. I think if you wrote blah 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 in Google, then it would actually correct the words in there and state blah as it's supposed to be spelled.
Yeah, it's not one word, blah, blah, blah. It's 3 separate blahs. That's what it would tell you. Did you
That's
mean
amazing.
blah, blah, blah? Question mark.
Oh, so the last point I forgot to mention is so what I'm going to try to do is come up with like a list of like important things that I want to try to practice. And in like one thing I can think of right off the top of my head is when I wake up first thing in the morning, I want to get ready. And I had mentioned this, I think, a couple of episodes back. So if I continue to make that like something that I think about, then I think I'm much more likely to do it. So I think I'm back on the self-discipline and habit train now that, I'm kind of jumping around like a leapfrog or something, but I'll eventually get there.
You're always on the room. You're always on the path for self-improvement. And I think that's the most important part, Tim, is that you're always seeking and always trying for new ways to improve yourself. And I think that's the greatest gift that you can give yourself. So kudos to you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Beth, how's this past week been? Any updates? I want to hear them.
Okay. Well, as I said last week, I don't remember what I said last week, but I thought it would be kind of funny to be like, I totally did that thing. But I did make some goals with my therapist last week for me to try to maintain. And I'm going to get into, and actually I started everything today, which I feel like is the perfect time because we have that extra hour. So I'm waking up at 7, which is really 8 o'clock, but it's still 7 o'clock. The dogs are like, why aren't you feeding us? And we have to feed them earlier. But, it works for me because I can stumble out of bed at 7, be downstairs by 7:15, do my daily meditation. I like, if anyone has the Calm app, I really like Jeff Warren's daily meditations. They're usually 15 minutes or less, and he puts one out every day. I don't know if he recycles them or not, or if he just records new ones every time, but I really like his meditation. I feel if you're going to do guided meditation, you should find somebody whose voice doesn't annoy you, and his voice doesn't annoy me. So I did my meditation with Jeff Warren at 7:15. And then at 7:30, I went up and woke up Owen, and I'm going to try to use the time before he goes to school to do my scripture journaling or read my devotional. And because you know what I was doing before when I was waking up Owen? I was stumbling out of bed at 7:30, going across the hall to tell Owen it's time to wake up. And then I would come downstairs and I would just nap on the couch until it was time to take Owen to school. And that's not a productive use of my time. So I'm trying to use my time more productively. And I'm giving myself a goal of 1 to 3 times a week. I'll do my journaling. If I do more than that, that's great. But I already did. No, I didn't do it today. I did not journal. I read my devotional anyway. And then I'm going to still try to do my exercising and walking the dogs.
All right.
So hopefully.
Laying down on the couch could be a form of meditation for you, Beth. And if you accidentally fall asleep, you know what?
Yeah.
You were talking to the Lord and maybe he just put you to bed.
That's what I was thinking. Well, the thing is, whenever I'm not a morning person at all, I'm so grumpy in the morning and like nobody talked to me because I'm just mad that I have to exist in the morning. But I was thinking, if I'm tired and doing meditation, so what? I have to be closing my eyes anyway. But laying down on the couch is too dangerous for me. So I cleared off my special meditating chair. It's just a regular chair that I do my meditating in. So I can close my eyes and sit up and not fall asleep.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, so, I can relate to you, Beth, on that. Like, I specifically do not lay in bed when I meditate because I think I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And that I think every single time I like convinced myself that maybe this time I'm not going to fall asleep. No, it happens every single time. But the only problem is my sitting in the chair and meditating. If I am extremely tired, I accidentally taught myself how to fall asleep in my chair now.
But the only time that meditation doesn't make me fall asleep is when I'm listening to meditation specifically to help me fall asleep. And then I feel like it's too much pressure to fall asleep, and my brain's like, nope, we're staying up forever now. But anyway.
The irony.
I know. So the second thing I was going to talk about is I witnessed the aftermath of a murder this afternoon.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah, you heard me. I witnessed the aftermath of a murder. I came home today and 2 of the dogs greeted me at the door. I have 4 dogs in my house right now and only 2 greeted me. And the other 2 were in the kitchen. Jamie, she's our Australian Shepherd. She was laying down in the kitchen with something in front of her that I did not think that she should have. And so I was like, hey, Jamie, what you got there? And then she immediately put it in her mouth and ran outside. And I was like, what? Did that have feet? And so I chase her outside. And before I can even figure out what she has in her mouth, I looked in the grass and there were feathers everywhere. I found a decapitated bird head, and I'm pretty sure it was Jamie, but Jonah thinks it was Ricky Bobby, who is my friend Lucy's dog that we watch from time to time. But the thing about Ricky Bobby is he's 12 years old and he has had all of his teeth removed. But you know what they say? It really is sometimes the one you least suspect. So it could very well have been Ricky Bobby.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Never did I think you would require your family to physically implement Pastor Jim's sermon of deconstruction.
I know.
It's about prayer, Beth. It's not about deconstructing animals.
Well, Jamie only hears what she wants to hear. So she was like, deconstructing birds? No, Jamie, no. And anyway, so I had to put her back in so I could dispose of the...
Yeah.
I should have had a funeral for it, but I did. I was coming home real quick to drop some stuff off, and then I had to go pick up Owen, and who has the time for bird funerals? And then the last thing that I will share is that Jonah told me a few days ago that he wanted to make homemade bread. And so I was like, okay, let's find. I did not make bread the entire time of COVID. I just didn't. I didn't want to. I never had any desire to make bread. And if being honest, I still don't. But because Jonah wanted to make it, we went out and bought the ingredients. It's only 4 ingredients and it's no knead bread. And we just mixed the dough together like 30 minutes before I came on for the podcast. So we're letting it sit for 3 hours, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator for 12 hours, and then we're going to bake it tomorrow. I might remember that we baked bread last week when in the future, when it's next week and we're recording the podcast. So I don't know if that was confusing, but I hopefully can give you an update on the bread if I remember that I made bread this week.
Beth, I need to say something. So before you said that you have no need for bread. Well, you got no need bread.
Oh, goodness.
You're making no need.
Funny and on purpose sometimes. Oh, just remembered I wanted to share one more thing. I made Jonah a Paul Blart Mall Cop mug because I just bought the equipment to make cooler mugs than I was making before. And so I've been making ridiculous mugs, and I just can't stop making ridiculous mugs. But I accidentally printed out 2 pictures of the Paul Blart Mall Cop mug or whatever, and I didn't want to waste it. So I was like, hey, does anyone want to buy a Paul Blart Mall Cop mug? And one person was like, I'll take it. And then another person was like, oh, can you make another one? So I'm proud to say that I have sold 2 Paul Blart Mall Cop mugs. And if anybody else needs any kind of weirdly specific mug, I would be happy to make it for them.
Wow.
Nice. Next up, we're going to have just mug shots of Pastor Jim, Pastor John, Don, everyone.
I have a Jason Mraz mug that does have his actual mug shot on it from, I guess, the time when he got arrested.
Oh,
it's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
Jessica.
So far this week has been pretty awesome, guys, because my brother is in town.
Yes.
He's all the way here. I don't know what the words are, but he came here from Aspen, and he normally is just stuck in his cabin off of Aspen Mountain when it's snow season. Right now, they've already received 3 feet of snow, and he has gotten into golfing, which means he wants a place that has warmer weather. Cut to, hey-oh. Exactly. So, and yes, he went golfing today. I was very excited for him.
Wow.
So yeah, he's going to be staying with Amber and I for the next couple of weeks. We're really excited about that. And he signed himself up for a golf tournament in Vegas.
Wow.
Saturdays. So that's when he will be departing and heading out there.
Very nice.
But he's one of those people that he brings so much positivity and just excitement and makes you feel like you can kind of do anything, because he's the brother that runs 100-mile races and, just kind of defies the laws of body movement and sustainability. And so it's kind of exciting to do stuff with him. And yes, I did join him golfing yesterday. I did not swing a club. I didn't do anything. The goal was show up, get a golf cart, and drive him around. That was my exciting thing. I was like, I am so looking forward to this.
Did you accomplish that goal?
I did not. We showed up at 4:05, and the guy said, well, we stopped giving out carts at 4:00.
Oh, so no.
You're going to have to walk.
I'm in the freeway of 405 are the worst.
Now, the other thing, Beth, you mentioned this, the time change. That added another layer of fun because, like I said, we got there at 4:05. The sun starts going down at 5:00. So we are at the back, like, we only did the first 9. Like, that was the first 9 holes is all that we were going to be doing. AKA me watching him and telling him, I think you should use this club because obviously I'm very educated in golf.
You were his caddy.
Which I'm not. But anyway, so I was basically his caddy. And so towards the end, we were on hole 7 and it was 5:15. And let me tell you, I couldn't see anything. So we were literally just running through the holes, like trying to finish the 9 holes. And so he would hit the ball. I would be running and just laughing because it is so dark. I have no idea what is in front of me. But it was probably one of the best experiences of golfing I've ever had. So I don't know where, like, he would hit the ball and we would just like stop and pause and wait to hear the sound of like where it could potentially be hitting. There was one where like we just heard a massive splash and I was like, Kyle, you're gonna have to hit that again. I think that definitely went in the water.
It's like echolocation. Is that
exactly? Like, I think it's on the fairway for sure. That was a pretty good thump. That was pretty good.
Every time I would be like, oh, you got a hole in one. Yay.
That's pretty much what I said. Kyle, it went in. It definitely went in. But so So far, things have been very exciting. They've been a lot of fun here in the Young household. I'm excited to share next Monday what this whole week ends up becoming, because there's a lot of fun stuff that we have in store, including this Friday. I'm going to be taking my brother to a concert down at the Crypto.com arena. Also, Amber's also joining, obviously. We are going to go see Lauren Daigle at the Crypto.com arena. So
That's so cool.
I am very, very excited about that.
Hey, that's a lot better than, well, I shouldn't say this, but I was initially thinking that that's a lot better than seeing Taylor Swift on a live broadcast, because that's what I did.
They are going to come after you if they hear you say that.
We can't lose all of our listeners, Tim. We have way too many listeners to sacrifice just because of that.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am more afraid of Taylor Swift's fans than I am of her. Not that I'm afraid of Taylor Swift, but her fans are terrifying to me. They're just so intense.
They're devoted. I think that's a better.
That's what I meant to say.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Devoted.
Speaking of devoted, there are so many devoted people that are part of our church that participate in all of our small groups, which is one thing that's happening at the church right now. We've got awesome small groups that, as I've mentioned before, they are in full swing. And so if you are interested in joining any of them, check in with them, kind of get an update. I'm sure they would welcome you with open arms. There might be some reading or watching to do, but so far I've been hearing nothing but good things from those that are part of the Bible studies. So it's very exciting. A couple other things to note. We have on November 12th, a new member Sunday. So if you'd like to join the church, call the office and you can speak to Pastor Jim and discuss that amazing opportunity. November 17th is Aspire Women's Night Out. That's at 7 p.m. Tickets are $20, but you get dinner if you choose to go, but it's not included in the price. So the sign-up sheet is in the lobby. Be sure to check that out. A lot of awesome things, a lot of very exciting things. Food at First, obviously that's on Wednesdays.
Food at First?
Thank you so much.
Food at First.
Food for thought. I'm thinking of... Guys, it has been a long day. So Food for Thought on Wednesdays. Don't forget the Kids Club is at 5:30. You can join Beth and who knows, maybe you can receive a new car. You never know what could happen at Kids Club. So definitely join in. And then that kind of goes to some potential opportunities that take place in the evenings around 7 p.m. And Beth, that kind of leads us to our ministry moment. I'd love for you to dive in with your special song.
Great. I was just thinking, should I sing the song this week? And the answer is yes, because I kind of missed the song. I have not revised it in any way, so we're just going to go with it. All right. And go. I told myself to go. That's right. The ministry moment. The ministry moment. This is Beth's ministry moment. This is not Seth's ministry moment. This is Beth's ministry moment. I don't remember how the tune went, but I think that was
perfect.
That was awesome.
Speaking of Beth's ministry moment today, and music that's better than mine, today we have Don Morris, who is our worship leader and much more. Don, why don't you tell us a little? First of all, welcome, Don.
Welcome.
And second of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about the ministries that you are in charge of?
Oh, basically the music ministry, which includes the praise band, the bell choir, the chancel choir, and the tech team. Anything revolving around the worship ministry, I guess. I've been the music director since 2008.
All right.
Oh,
Anything that makes a sound, Don is in charge of.
Pretty much.
And anything digital, I believe Don is also in charge of.
Yeah.
So in terms of favorites, do you have a favorite in all of the things that you oversee? Or is this like one of those things where you have like children and you don't name your favorite?
Well, I can name 2 favorites, but I love the tech aspect. I was a network administrator, desktop support for 15 years before I joined the church full-time in ministry. So I love the tech aspect. And I've even longer than that, I've been a musician, and so the praise band probably has a soft spot in my heart.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the laser beams that you've utilized within the live services. That's
Is smoke machine too much?
it's it's very subtle. So,
Okay.
yeah, it works great.
All right.
Don,
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what's the chancel choir? That sounds like fun. And then I realized I'm in the chancel choir.
Yes.
I've never heard it called that before.
That's the official name for it, I guess.
Oh.
And I had no idea. I was like, chancel choir? What? Sign me up.
Yeah, that sounds real fancy.
Even better. So great. I don't have to add that into my schedule because it's already there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out to you, Don. You do a fantastic job on the online experience of PUMC. Like, you got the YouTube experience, you got the newsletter that's sent out, you have the website. It's just wonderful.
Well, the newsletter is sent out by Pastor John.
Okay.
But,
oh, whoops.
Yeah. But it is wonderful. It is wonderful. Yes.
It would be even more wonderful if you sent it out.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, we'd probably look at the newsletter if you did it, Don.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I love it. Well, we are, so fortunate to have you, Don, because you're just incredibly talented in all areas that you've mentioned, especially with the tech side of things. And so I know for me, like that was one thing that I was appreciative of, in terms of coming to the church, was that you were really well versed with all things music. And so it's definitely a blessing to the church.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, we are going to head into the sermon feedback portion. And Don, we'd love to have you. Would you be willing to stick around and share your thoughts and feedback?
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome. So this past Sunday, it was an awesome first of 3 parts to Pastor Jim's sermon series wrapped around prayer and your beliefs about prayer. And I don't know about you guys, but it struck a chord with me, no pun intended on that whatsoever. But it made me...
Are always intended.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, that makes sense for me too.
But there were a lot of amazing things that were going through my head as he was sharing even some of the questions about the prayer exercises that I know are going to be talked about more in depth on Wednesday. But
yeah, you did mention that once or twice.
Yeah.
he mentioned,
Oh, yeah. I think
just
so.
a couple times. Yeah.
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 Kind of subtle about it.
Wait,
Yeah.
what did he mention? Just for everybody.
I think it's called food first. Is that what you said?
Food first.
Food first, then you think. Then there's thought.
Food
Yes.
first. And
But-
give me.
But basically, the takeaway that probably nobody missed, but everybody missed, was food for thought is having the follow-up that is prayer deconstructed exercises. So it's a special food for thought series the next 3 weeks.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
Tim, I'll go ahead and start with you. What were your initial thoughts on, the sermon? And I'm curious how you came to know of prayer.
Yeah. So let me think. To start with my initial impression. So I thought it was very fascinating how basically there's no right way to do prayer. And I think I've always known that, but it's kind of validating, like, especially in the very beginning of Pastor Jim's sermon, he explained like all these different scenarios, like, oh, there's a secret prayer and there's a secret place. Oh, wait, there is no secret prayer and there is no secret place. And then even the person who pretty much just was not really so sure about his confidence with God, that there was still that overall listening, and that overall listening from God, and then the people were helped. I thought that was very fascinating. But I think what really stuck with me was the memorization of prayer, and then also not really having any plan whatsoever when going in prayer, but just being present there with God. I think I can basically vibe with both of those stances, and then probably find myself somewhere in the middle, certainly. But I certainly could use reciting of the Lord's Prayer every day, like outside of when we pray the Lord's Prayer during our services. I think I could probably go with that every day, and it would provide a lot of value to my life. But the other parts of it, like maybe just totally unplanned, like just being present with God, because this kind of leads into my off day thing for today. I think I had one or two short prayers to God, just like one or two sentences about just God giving me strength. But I think I probably could have used the help of just being present with God in those moments today. So that, yeah, this sermon was just so helpful. As far as my growing up with prayer, I don't think I really had a very strong understanding of prayer until I kind of really found my faith again after becoming an unbeliever. So it's almost like my knowing God was a prerequisite to my effectively praying and understanding how prayer was and so forth. Because when I was a kid, like with that Christian background, I think I just did it as a form of like, oh, I need to say all the things to God. And then I didn't really know God, as Pastor Jim was saying in the quoting the scriptures from Samuel. So yeah, I still can work on my prayer life for sure. And so this sermon series has been really helpful for me.
Good. Don, I'm curious, the same for you in terms of growing up and how prayer was started in your life.
I was born and raised Catholic, and so some of my early memories of prayer was memorized prayer, and a lot of it centered around the rosary, and having to pray that. And in fact, I still have my grandmother, who was, it was also All Saints Sunday on this past Sunday, and when we were remembering people from our past that have been instrumental in our faith, my grandmother was one of those. And I still have one of her rosaries that was given to me after she passed. So yeah, it's pretty much centered around memorized prayer, which is why when I came into the Methodist Church and the free form of prayer came about, it was a little jarring, but I'm adapting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no Hail Mary, full of grace. There's not so much of that at the church that we do.
Right.
But
Well,
anyway.
I like that aspect of just being able to talk to God.
Yeah, definitely.
you
don't have to say the right words. You don't have to do the right things. You just sit down, make time, and just talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The pastors do say the same prayer every time before their sermons, though. Meditation. I can't.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable and pleasing to you, O God.
Yeah. I
think
that's
welcome,
cool.
our Redeemer. Yeah. Miriam and I were just reciting that today in the office for whatever reason, and having a laugh or two.
That lets me know when I need to start the video when I'm clipping out the sermon to post on Sunday morning or Sunday evenings. So
That's super cool.
I remember when I was scripture journaling one day, I remember coming across that verse in the Bible, and I was like, "Oh, Tim says this every week."
Oh, I know.
I know that
Me
one.
too.
It was like meeting your favorite scripture for the first time. I don't know. Like, I'm a real big fan of your work, scripture.
Yeah, it's like, Jesus, I know him. Yes.
Right.
Exactly. That's what it is.
Yes. Beth, what about you? Did you grow up with prayer and?
Not really. When I was little, we would go to church, and I was raised Methodist, and my dad is still a Methodist and goes regularly to church, but I don't remember praying at dinner time or anything like that. And I still sometimes forget to pray at meals. But I remember when I was little, my mom had these, well, actually, my parents had these friends from college who they're still both friends with, even though they're divorced. You know how you're supposed to like pick someone in the divorce? They didn't do that. They're just still friends with my mom and my dad, but my mom is more friends with the wife and my dad is more friends with the husband. Anyway, so we would go to their house on the weekend. Sometimes they lived like, I think, an hour and a half away or something, and so sometimes we would spend the weekend over there, and my brother and I would play with their kids, and then the adults would just like have adult beverages and then shoo us out of the kitchen because they were trying to have grown-up time, and I didn't understand that back then. I totally get it now, but they were a Catholic family, and they would go, to mass and all the time and all of that. And I think I must have found some sort of literature there that had the Lord's Prayer on it. And I showed it to my mom, and I was like, Mom, is this a prayer that, that I can pray? And she was like, yes, but you have to say, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. That makes it a Methodist prayer. And I was like, oh, okay. And she probably doesn't remember any of this, and I'm probably remembering it wrong. But that reminds me, my mom has been made aware of the podcast. She's known about it for some time, but she just sent me a text message a couple days ago because she started listening, and I want to read it to you, what my mom said.
What's your mom's name?
My mom's name is Deb Reed.
Because I've met her. So, hey, Deb.
We have met her.
Hello, Deb.
Let's see. Oh, so she said, I love your podcast. 2 exclamation points. You are all so intelligent and interesting. 2 exclamation points. I'm not caught up yet, but I think it's fabulous. 2 exclamation points.
Wow, that is such a nice compliment. Thank you so much, Deb.
I thought that was nice.
That just made my week, Deb.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's amazing.
So if any other listeners out there have good things, we're only accepting good things about the podcast and not bad things. But if you say anything good about our podcast, we might give you a shout out, and the 6s of listeners.
Yes. The 6 listeners.
Billion.
Yeah. 6 billion. Yep.
Million.
Oh, we lost a few. I thought we were up to 6 billion, but it's million. Okay.
Yes.
I said some controversial stuff in the last podcast, probably. I don't remember anything.
Right.
We don't remember. We just, have our podcast and then we forget everything we say.
Right.
We just get done.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that in the last episode, Beth. You said that you started listening to the episodes because otherwise you won't know what the audience is, if they approach us, what they're even talking about. What are they even referring to?
I know. And I do listen to them, but I still forget even after I listen to them. What about you, Jessica? What was prayer like in your house?
You know, my grandmother and my grandfather are probably the most influential people in my entire life in all things, anything ever. I mean, other than like Jesus, but they, my grandmother has passed on, but my grandfather is still alive, and he is such a faithful, devoted man of God. I'm always inspired by him. And it starts with him being a farmer and him having to have faith that the weather will cooperate to provide for his family, which is, I mean, I've tried starting a garden like 3 times and we finally feel like we're getting it. But to have a certain amount of acreage where you're like, okay, sun, please come out. Don't rain too much. Don't get too windy, And I remember growing up, we would always pray before dinner, our simple prayer. And it was like, come Lord Jesus, be our guest. Let these gifts to us be blessed. Amen. That was always our prayer. And my grandfather would, at night, sometimes he would pray with me. And I always felt that they were the most special prayers because I saw him as being so close to Jesus, and even before bed, my own mom would pray over us, and she would make that part of our nighttime routine. And also she would give really good back rubs, and that was my favorite part. And I never wanted that to end. And she said, just a little bit longer, but we need to pray. And so we would always pray before bed. And so prayer was always kind of instilled in my life growing up. My dad was Catholic, but we were going to like a Lutheran church growing up. So it was very like, whenever I'd visit my dad, because my parents are divorced, whenever I'd visit my dad, we would go to a Catholic church. And so I got I'd get my squats, stand up, sit down. I mean, my legs looked good going to a Catholic church. And so, but
Don, how does your leg look?
They used to be great. Yeah. Catholic aerobics.
Wow, well, that's amazing. I thought you'd only do those aerobics when you're like looking for something in the fridge or something.
Only if it's on the bottom shelf.
But, I think at the end of the day, it was always this form of devotion. And, Pastor Jim kind of mentioned a few things in terms of praying the right way and what's the wrong, people feeling that they pray a lot, they obviously are, they're probably closer to God kind of thing. And as I've gotten older, some of those prayers have stuck with me, but I've learned to kind of have more of a conversation with God where I'm driving and I'm just like, oh, God, you did good with that tree, like just certain things or hiking and having those moments, or hearing a song that I haven't heard in a long time. And I'm just like, oh, this is good, and just always remembering that God has created all things and being able to, in prayer, just kind of sit and embrace silence and be able to really just have more time with him that's not a structured format. And,
right.
And I know that when Amber and I have kids one day, I know that I'll want to instill that dinner prayer that my grandparents passed on to my mom and they passed on to me. I know that I'll want those traditions to continue because I feel that it teaches them something. It taught me something in terms of being grateful for what's on the table. And so, anyways, that's kind of how things have always kind of been in terms of prayer, but put my own little mix to it. So,
yeah, that's great. I think I can relate, Jessica, about the kind of talking to God about maybe things that you're grateful for, or different thoughts that you have about things, and it's kind of a less formal way of prayer, and I think that's like a really helpful spiritual thing to do. And I'm encouraged based on what you just said to do that myself. So that's really nice.
Yeah. Especially the times where like a car will cut you off on the freeway and you're like, Lord be with you. You know? So
Yeah.
there's always a time to pray. Like, I don't know. I find that it doesn't have to be a formal setting. You can do it anytime.
Right, exactly. And yeah, going back to what Pastor Jim said about that one story, the one person asked, I don't know who it was, about how he prayed, and he said he asked him two questions. I think it was, the first one was, so who's doing the talking, or no, something about
Yeah.
I think basically there was no answer about who was doing the talking, more or less, because he was doing the listening and he thought he was doing the speaking and so forth. And so, yeah, that whole being present with God thing really resonates with me. And then you might have those like informal thoughts, like what we were just talking about. Basically, or you'll have more like gratitude thoughts, or it'll just be a more meditative experience where maybe you're feeling the Holy Spirit and just kind of being in that spiritual space.
In the sermon notes I'm reading, and this kind of ties in kind of to what you experienced, Don. We can choose to accept some of what we were taught about prayer and make it part of our spiritual lives. We may realize that we need to discard a teaching that is no longer useful to us. And we may also be surprised to discover that in early lessons we thought we'd left behind still lingers in our hearts. So it's kind of like embracing the things that we were taught, but some things it's okay to let go of. It doesn't mean that it's wrong at all. It's more of adapting to how things work best in our own lives. So I think that's a really important factor with prayer.
And one of the things that I don't miss about commuting when I work down below is the traffic, but coming, going down, I would listen to the news and the traffic report and whatever, but then coming back, I just turned off the radio because it really didn't matter what time I got home. I was going to get home whenever I got home. And that was my time to talk to God.
Yeah.
And so for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I would just have the radio off and it would just be me and God for that drive. And it made my drive a lot nicer.
Yeah.
It was a lot better when I got home. Cool. When I got home to the family, I was already decompressed. I wasn't stressed out. I could be with the family and not have to worry about it.
Wow, that's really inspirational, actually, because I have like a 40-minute commute when I have to go on site. And I turn the radio off sometimes. But yeah, that's an awesome time to pray to God.
Mm-hmm.
I think even through worship, there's, because at the end of the day, a lot of what we were, like the words that we're saying, a lot of them can be based on Psalms or Proverbs or things that are from the Bible. We're just vocalizing them a little differently. I think that's one thing that I enjoy is anytime that I do commute to work, I put on worship music and I'm literally just singing those words, and that's my prayer to God, or that's my proclamation to God, like you're good, and so I think it's important to always remember there's different ways, that you can talk to God, and there's never a bad time,
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I wrote down from what Pastor Jim said was pray always and always.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I was just going to say, I wanted to mention before I forget that I loved the addition of the Serrano family players. They acted the scripture, and oh my goodness, they just, every time I watch their videos, they just make me laugh and bring me so much joy.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, Lourdes, and your family players.
That was the first time I had seen them do that, and it was awesome. I feel like they should do that every Sunday. So, Serrano family, if you're listening, you all are rock stars, and that was pretty awesome.
Yes, it was.
One other point on prayer. So there's a scripture I just found out which one it was. Matthew 6:8. Basically, the Lord knows what you need before you ask him. So that's kind of like a validation that we don't need to like pray a certain way. He knows what's on our hearts. And then the other thing is, I'm glad, Jessica, that you mentioned about the Psalms, because there's this one Psalm that I always keep going back to. It's Psalm chapter 18, verses 1 and 2. I just looked at it like yesterday or even today. I think it would be good for me to like memorize that Psalm and probably just go in there and memorize a whole bunch of different Psalms and make that a part of my prayer experience.
Speaking of Psalms, I was trying to think of the Psalm that I should be reciting every day when I'm worrying about stuff that has or hasn't happened yet. So, and I think we might have even talked about it on the podcast before. I'm not sure. No, that was the yoke is light. And
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, yes.
Scripture that I tell my chickens every day.
yes, a bedtime story. Psalm 55:22, cast your burden on the Lord and he shall sustain you. He shall never permit the righteous to be moved.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah, I guess for everybody, I can go real quick on this. Psalm 18, verses 1 through 2 is, I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, my God, my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. Yeah, so I just love that verse. It's so wonderful.
Be a really cool tattoo on you, Tim.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
A tattoo, Tim.
Psalm tattooed on you, Tim.
Oh, gotcha.
On your forehead.
You just get a boulder on your body and just say, yeah, that's my rock and my fortress.
Or he can get a tattoo of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, like
yes.
in a portrait.
It's so funny. I didn't know what you were talking about at first. I'm like, wait, what do you?
We've already scheduled the appointment and we've paid for the tattoo. All you have to do
wow.
Even better, I have a tattoo gun and I can do it for you, Tim.
Wow.
But Pastor Jim mentioned that the prayer that scared him as a kid was, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. For a long time, I didn't. Oh, actually, I found a version online when I was trying to find what the whole prayer was. I found one that's not so scary, Pastor Jim, if you want to switch it out with this one. It says, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. See me safely through the night and wake me with the morning light. Amen. So that's one's not as scary.
Oh.
But for like most of my childhood, I didn't realize that was an actual prayer because there's a country song. Does anybody know the country song Feed Jake?
I don't.
I'm going to tell you the lyrics. All right. I'm not going to sing it, but I will tell you.
That's right, because we didn't pay for the licensing on that.
No, we didn't.
So that's all right.
So, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I die before I wake, feed Jake. He's been a good dog, my best friend right through it all. If I die before I wake, feed Jake. And
like that's what Amber would say instead of take care of Jessica. Just feed the animals.
I literally had a conversation with Miriam today. Don't worry, everybody, I'm fine. But I told her that I have to outlive my dog, Stormy. Like, I cannot die until he passes, because if I die while he's still alive, like he won't be able to handle himself. And there's no way you can explain to him that I'm never coming back. And he just would never be the same. He would be so devastated and he'd be waiting for me to walk through the door every second of his life. And so I'm not living for my dog, but I do need to make sure that I outlive him. And that's like a legitimate like concern I have for him. If anything were to happen to me before he, like, I'll be okay. I'll be able to, make it. But I don't think his little precious heart would be able to take it.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Beth, I think to commemorate this, you could bring Stormy to PUMC so that everybody can visit Stormy again. That would be very nice.
I should bring him. I haven't brought him in a while, but that's because he no longer requires to be in stationary in a stroller, and he wanders too much. So
that makes me think of how awesome would it be if we had a dog nativity scene at PUMC where people brought their animals and we dressed them up as
yes.
Oh my gosh, guys.
Yes.
Just saying. That would be so cool.
That would be really fun.
I could bring Bandit.
Would he be a wise man?
Sure.
Who's going to be the baby Jesus, everyone?
Actually, I have the perfect baby Jesus. It's Ricky Bobby, because all he wants to do, he's 12 years old, and he's a Jack Russell Terrier mix. And all he wants to do is just lay down forever right now. Like that's how he's living his life. He would be the perfect baby Jesus, because he would just be so chill.
Yeah. Always meditating, Ricky Bobby.
Right. He really is. But unless age plays a factor, he's too old to be a baby. But
Benjamin Button, you never know. Could be going backwards.
Right. Oh, yes.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
I think we should do it. And I don't think it should be limited to dogs. Does anyone have a pet duck? We could have like a duck
or like some goats that just showed up.
Oh, you know what? We could just go to Jessica's house and use all of her animals.
You know what? Don't put it past us. We might put them all in position for a nativity scene and hope to take a picture.
That would be amazing. You should totally do that.
That would be so cool.
Christmas card of the year.
Yes. And then Beth can put us on mugs.
Yes, I can. And I will. I'm putting everybody on mugs. Everybody, wow. I don't know if my mom did it herself, because I've seen her computer skills, but one year for Christmas, she had a picture of her and her husband Larry, and like all of the dogs like nicely posed around them, but they were like photoshopped in, because there's no way like they could have gotten the dogs to, sit a day for the amount of time to take a picture.
It may end up being what the picture looks like, but I could do a pretty good job of editing everything in.
Maybe she went to you to get her Christmas card.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I remember that, actually.
Yes.
She was like, "Hey, I don't know you yet, but you're gonna."
I just met you, so here's my number. And
hey, baby, I don't have the licensing. I'm so sorry. I said, "Call me Gravy," so it's fine.
Oh, I like that version.
Please
Call
don't
me Gravy.
Well, what a great segue to prayer requests, Beth. Thank you for providing that easy segue.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll call you Gravy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to start with Dawn, our special guest, if you've got any prayer requests.
I don't know. The first thing that came to mind was just for my family, because that you hear about the typical pastor's kids, and a lot of that is true and understandable, but there are some things like the music minister's family, their kids, their spouses, that we have a lot of time dedicated to the church, and now with because of what went on with our staff retreat and the line about what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail. My old band is back together and playing out, and so between the church and this other endeavor, just for my family that they can get what they need, the strength and encouragement and whatever that I'm not able to provide.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about you reconnecting with your band, and I know your band just came out with a new album. I know you guys finished that up, so I'm really excited to hear that. And
it's released today.
That's
wow. Really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's why we brought you on today, Don.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Congrats on getting the band back together.
Oh man, yeah, congratulations.
I'm hoping that I can check out a live show in the coming months, hopefully.
I think our first one is booked January 19th at the Universal Bar and Grill.
Nice.
Wow.
Like on the Universal City? Is that the Universal?
I believe so. I haven't been there.
Okay.
We'll have to connect with you, Don, for the deets.
Yes, the deets.
Yeah, for my family, just, understanding and strength and all of that.
Yeah. I can relate in some aspect of just having a lot going on and then hoping that your family kind of can understand that it's for the greater good, and, trying to balance everything is crazy. And, but the good thing is the majority of I guess all of your children are no longer
babies.
Technically, yeah, exactly. And so they can be self-sufficient.
Right.
Maybe this is a great time for them to become super independent and expand and learn more about themselves, because they can see that their dad's doing it.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be praying for your family, but also very excited for you, Don.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Don.
Tim?
Let's see. So I think I could use a prayer. It's like an ongoing sort of like understanding for self-improvement and strength, and just continue to be resilient or otherwise confident in interpreting my stress in a healthier way. I think the more important part for me would be, I just found out, I think it was just a few days ago, that before I started working in IT, I was a math tutor, and I was working with this person named Tassie. She was actually my supervisor. Well, she passed away a couple days ago, and I feel pretty sad about that, because I felt like I could have been maybe a better friend, or could have cultivated a better friendship. Unfortunately, the way that she passed away was she was struggling with addiction for years, and I think that's what caused her to pass away. So I had sent a message to her daughter and just told her that my heart goes out to her and Tassie, and so I'm hoping maybe I could do another follow-up or two, but yeah, just prayers for Tassie and her family. There's another friend that I had lost to suicide, but that was many years ago. So this is certainly a bit of a shock. I'm kind of a little more content with things now after the initial shock, but it's still very sad, and I'm sure it's a big just a big thing that would affect an entire family, all their friends, just a complete life changer. So
sorry to hear about that, Tim, but thank you for sharing that so we can pray for Tassie's family.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Beth, prayer requests for this week?
Yes. So more prayers for Lucy. She made her health issues Facebook official, so now I feel like I can talk about it more openly the podcast, but last week she had to get some biopsies done. She found a lump in her breast, so she went to get that checked out, and so she had to have, originally it was supposed to be biopsies on 4 lumps, but they found a 5th lump that they did a biopsy on, and the results came back, and unfortunately she does have stage 2B breast cancer, metastatic to the lymph nodes.
Oh.
And there's never a good time for cancer to come. I mean, you can't just schedule it in, but this is like really just a rough time for her right now. So if we could have continued prayers for Lucy, but because of what Lucy told me, she did motivate me to get my own mammogram done. My grandma died at age 55 of breast cancer. And so I got my first mammogram on November 2nd, but she said that the results should be in a couple weeks, and that's too long for me to wait.
Right.
Which is actually why I was looking up Psalm 55:22, because I keep forgetting to cast my burdens onto the Lord instead of just carrying them. So
He already knows the plans that he has for you, Beth. That's the one thing you can
Right.
Now, and here's the funniest thing of all. We were never in control, and we never will be. I don't know why that we can maintain the illusion that we are in control. We never were, and we never will be.
Right.
I'm trying not to worry about things that aren't a thing yet.
Do not worry about today, for tomorrow will worry about itself.
Yep.
Right. And do any of you remember the Serenity Prayer?
Yes.
I forgot it.
It's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I almost had the whole thing.
Yep.
I just didn't have the serenity part in there.
I just remembered pieces of it, but I didn't know where they went in the puzzle.
Beth, if you made a Serenity Prayer mug, then I would be very interested in acquiring one.
All right.
For my own personal use, and I will gladly show other people that mug.
I've already made it. I'm just kidding, but I will make it. Jessica.
You know what? It's interesting that you said that, Beth, because I have a coworker that I'm really close with, and she got a mammogram. She turned 40. She got a mammogram. Her grandmother passed away from breast cancer, and they found 2 lumps.
Oh.
And they just said it's inconclusive. It could be nothing, but we are going to test it. And so for her, I kind of told her there's 2 ways you can look at this. One, you can spiral. And that's what most people do. They go down Google Drive and they just spiral. The second thing is know they've caught it right now and they are visible. They can potentially remove it. So, I think there's always different ways that you can look at situations. And I think the best way to look at things, obviously, is look at the positive in things, or look at, honestly, it's really just the positive parts.
There's a Jason Mraz song for that. It's called Look for the Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's my whole dumb logic on the whole thing. My dad has 2 sisters. I have 2 aunts who are older than 55, which is when their mom passed away. And as far as I know, they're healthy and don't have breast cancer. But in my crazy spiraling brain, I'm like, what if the breast cancer skips a generation?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
Fine. There's nothing to worry about until there's something to worry about. So.
Right.
And then
exactly.
when that comes up, there's always a plan. There's always a next step, and there's always a solution. And we have to be receptive to what those solutions are and trust the people that have been medically trained to help with that, And so,
right.
But yeah, so I guess her name is Melissa. If you guys could pray for her, that would be awesome. She's not necessarily like a believer. I think if she were to think who Jesus was, she would think it'd be like Britney Spears. That's kind of where she's at. The last thing I wanted to mention was Veterans Day is on Friday, and it never fails that every Veterans Day I get emotional because I have lost people to suicide that I've served with, and it's very emotional because I think there's such camaraderie around the veteran community, and it's one of the reasons why I'm such a strong and firm advocate for mental health, specifically within the veteran community. And so for those that are veterans and maybe struggle with, thoughts that you don't like, there are always resources available. And if you know who I am at the church and you are a veteran and I could pray for you, I would be more than happy to do that with you at church on Sunday. But it's just, I'm grateful that I am a veteran, but if you are like me, where you always wish that you wish you could have done more with your time in service, that's kind of where I'm at. And so, like I said, a lot of emotions end up on Veterans Day for me. And so I think if everybody could pray for all of the veterans on Veterans Day, I would really appreciate that in terms of utilizing the momentum of prayer that we've learned about with Pastor Jim on Sunday. So
yes, absolutely, Jessica. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited, Don, that you were able to join us this week.
Thank you. Yes. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Don. It's been an absolute honor.
Wonderful. And, we appreciate you being one of the Methodists to the madness in this world.
Yeah.
All of that? Well.
Beth, you want to take it away? Otherwise, I'm going to be really awkward.
Stopping by.
Yes, thank you.
We're all from different places, we all have different names. No matter what life brings us, Jesus is the same. We're just your Methodist to the madness. Methodist to the madness.